Hello, I'm Jeremy Rivera, your unscripted SEO podcast host. I'm here with Rob Bonham, who's going to introduce himself and tell us why we should trust him as an SEO expert.
Great question, Jeremy. Thanks for asking. So I'm Rob Bonham. I'm a SEO with about 2 decades of experience in the digital marketing arena. Um, I've done a lot of local SEO work, a lot of e-commerce, a lot of SaaS, and a lot of home service based kind of clientele that I've served over the years. Right now, I am working very closely as an advisor to several different startups, and also a fractional SEO manager slash director for a few different agencies. So, um, thanks, Jeremy, for giving me the opportunity to talk with you.
With I'm in that same category of 20 years. I'm curious what your perspective is on the SEO game at the moment compared to when you started.
It feels like the pre Panda Penguin days of Wild West SEO. Um, Now that we have AI to contend with, and for better or worse, try to try to use that to our advantage. Um, I think there's a lot of SEOs that are I think not as well versed in understanding of how AI is particularly changing the game, and what things are staying the same, what things do need to be approached a little differently. um so I think we're kind of at this next, I don't know if you want to call it SEO 3.0 or 4.0, whatever you want to label it, but we're at a very interesting crossroads where there was a time, early days of our careers, where you could do blog comment posting and get some SEO value out of that. You could do social bookmarking and get your site on Dig and get some traction there. Over time, that became watered down, spammy, you know, less than desirable tactics. And I think we're starting to see the same thing, because where it used to be able to have your proverbial low hanging fruit in doing work manually, fixing meta descriptions, title tags, that sort of thing. Now we're approaching, or we're in this agentic age where we have you know AI and AI related workflows to do that low level work that includes, of course, human intervention and oversight to make sure it's being accurate and truthful. But that's not where SEOs are going to be spending their time moving forward. Which in a lot of regards I'm very grateful for, because I want to be more steeped in, you know, working on strategy and working on, overarching digital marketing integrated campaigns that aren't just, okay, well, let's focus on knocking out 100 page titles this month for this client. That's no longer the way that that SEO can be approached and be effective anymore.
Well, I mean, because now you can go into Claude Code, connect WordPress through a REST API and say, hey, I want you to use SEO best practices and give title tags to update all of the title tags, give meta descriptions, and it's going run and be done in a few minutes. I
Hmm.
remember I had tons of multiple different SEO agencies subcontract me out and pay me for hours and hours of hand, editing, you know, title tags
Oh yeah.
again and meta descriptions. I too am grateful for that. I do think there's a bit of an unlock there as far as our time, and we can multiply our reach that much better. But it also means that, leveraging AI functionality and scale of implementation is now table stakes.
Hmm.
What is the over under of, you know, managing that superpower as an SEO consultant? Because I've got my, concrete wall guy down in Florida just literally came up with like 100 pages. It's a custom concrete wall, page for every single city that they service.
Uh-huh.
And while on the one hand, there, it's like, oh, there was like an attempt to like do a little bit more and have, different things. But uh, I also had to give feedback of like, okay, I get the idea of what you want to do, but, you, it's pulling like just random pictures of concrete walls. I don't think that's like the best, there's like,
Yep.
you can't do it raw, but the power is there. Oh, I just listened to this TikTok where somebody was like, there's this, um, what was it? It was like your client went into a fugue state with their Claude or their GPT and just like sent you 40 page documents of, I want to do this. And it's like they're replacing expertise with volume. And they're
Mm-hmm.
like, like, oh, I got it. Like, I'm an expert now. And, as you're looking at it from an actual like expert's perspective, you're like, no, the notionally it's good, but it's not founded in anything, and it's not
Yep.
based off your actual user database of like interviews. It's not truly anything with information gain.
Yep.
It's just a whole lot more of a not great idea.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And this is I think this is the kind of the sticking point for the industry right now is that, with much power comes much responsibility, right? Like, so, if just because you can publish, 100 city specific, pages for your concrete pouring business, should you? Probably not. Probably not going to be the wisest idea. I mean, and it's probably going to be a lot of, you know, AI at its essence is typically regurgitating what it can find from other websites. That's how it compiles answers. So, yeah, and that's why I think that as SEOs, we are stewards of the AI, because the thing is that if you don't know how to use the tools appropriately, you could get your website in a world of hurt. You might,
Mhm.
over a month we got, all these users. Well, the thing is half those users might be bots, and the other half are probably, you know, on the page for 5 seconds or less and bouncing. So, and then, if in, well, fingers crossed you don't get, penalized, or, your site, takes a dive, because Google's going to devalue that content if they see that the user signals aren't there. They're going to say this content is useless.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of the AI bros graphs that look like this, but then you stretch out the time horizon and it's zoom, like, yeah, duh, work, duh. But that's like the long view, that SEOs are accustomed to taking. Like, it's the downside. We're not the ad guys, and we can't drive immediate results necessarily unless it's coupled with some other kickoff campaign. Like, I was part of a launch of a pretty big, you know, energy project, and I was like, oh my God, if only every one of my sites could go out with links from LA Times, with links from New York Times, from Washington Post. But no, usually it's like, oh, I got a link from the Cookville Gazette.
Yep,
Get with
exactly.
the
Which, I mean,
opening of the site.
sometimes it's baby steps, right? I mean, it's the Cookville Gazette today. It could be New York Times in a couple years. Who knows?
Who knows? But the point of that being like, almost very few of my SEO projects have ever released with that level of, trust and authority being transferred. Usually it's like, I got to do the rounds and got to scrounge and look for opportunities to get offsite and to build things. But I think that's I think that's the moment right now, isn't it? we are getting to SEO that goes further. Maybe it's again, but again goes further than itself. And the website isn't the end all be all, it's the end, and certainly optimize it, but a lot more offsite work. Yeah.
Yep, for sure. And also as someone who's spent over half my career in agencies, I will say that agencies are at a um, precarious position right now. And we're seeing some clients starting to abandon their agencies because they're thinking, oh well, I don't need to be paying the 10K a month for my agency. I can just use my in-house guys, and they can just use AI, and we could get more done. But think about the strategy behind that, and think about what pitfalls you may not be aware of before you pull your agency, because it might be super enticing to publish that 50 pages in a month or 100 pages in a month, but think about how that will be perceived by not only you know LLM bots, search engine bots, but perceived by the users too. Because if they start going through your website and they start seeing this low value content, or
Hmm.
even worse, the client sees it
Yeah.
and they start noticing that it's just spun and respun, drivel for across all these pages, you're going to work yourself into a hole. And you might be looking like a hero for maybe a month, a few months, who knows, maybe 6 months out. But as soon as that site starts to tank, and it surely will after a period, then they're going to start looking at their agency sideways, and looking at potentially parting with them. So it's very, very paramount to the success of agencies right now to not go absolutely nuts,
Yeah.
but use AI as a tool, but cautiously and with human intervention, so that you can still produce quality deliverables, blog posts, on page changes, whatever it is,
Yeah.
in a way that is actually adding value instead of just perceived value of, oh, they knocked out 5 blog posts for me this month.
Yeah, the old SEO package of, well, we're publishing 4 articles and we got you 4 backlinks and we spent 4 minutes looking at your GSC data. That's not going to fly anymore.
Hmm.
Um, it's also, a time. It occurs to me that it's dangerous as a time because a lot of what business owners were turning to agencies for was not knowledge necessarily how to do something, but what not to do. And
Hmm.
we're in a moment where there's all of these new things that we need to do that are
Yeah.
getting folded in. It's a yes and, at the core of a lot of LLM optimization, it's still SEO. But
Yep.
as I was talking to Patrick Stocks a few days ago, like if you think that most companies have enough SEOs on payroll to change the opinion of the internet, you're wrong. Most people are not, they're understaffed already in SEO firepower.
Hmm.
So it's yes, LLMs and SEO overlap, but there's such a broader, wider domain of new stuff, new aspects, new tools, and some of it's BS and some of it is overblown. Like, do
Hmm.
we really need the 530-second citation checker? No.
Right.
We don't really need that. And it was it's a nice thing to kind of add ish, but none of these channels are really uh going to deep black box themselves.
Yep.
They're not going to open up the data in a significant way. You can get bits and pieces here and there. Microsoft Clarity will give
Hmm.
you Copilot information for citations.
That
Bing
is that is
Webmaster
hugely
Tools.
beneficial, especially if you don't have the cash or marketing budget to purchase a profound or comparable tool.
Yeah, Google Search Console theoretically released it. So some people have some query data if they're absolutely gigantic in size, which thanks Google.
Hmm.
Bing Webmaster Tools gives you some citation data, but there's an inherent problem of turning to Profound or others, which is, in my opinion, you don't ever you nearly don't ever get exactly the same thing out of LLMs that every time. So, yeah, there is something that can kind of signal that it kind of sort of knows something, but how much of that is the monkey chasing its own tail? How much of that is the dragon eating its own tail? Okay,
Yep.
if you prompt it in your session and you ask these query fan out things about yourself,
Hmm.
it within your singular microcosm, you'll get in your singular chat a much more complete picture. But how much of that is actually ingested upwards? Unknown.
Yep.
Um, and how much of that, like you can kind of tell ish that it's returning things like, are you in the knowledge database set that it's pulling from the start, or is it just going out to Google and pulling results from there?
Hmm.
Well,
Hmm.
you can kind of maybe sort of tell ish. Not
Yeah.
really. It's a black box. It's
Yeah.
so like there's,
At best, it's directional, right? Like
yeah,
I think it was yeah, Rand Fishkin from Moz fame, now SparkToro. He actually did a study of something like 80% of the time you're getting different results whenever you're putting in uh, a new whenever you're running an LLM query. It's like,
yes, that's
yeah,
that's exactly what I'm talking about. So if it's only repeating itself 20% of the time, then I mean being including it in the data set is kind of good, but also not guaranteed, or kind of fundamentally the way that we think about that needs to shift. It's
yep.
it's because we got greedy. There was a moment where we were better than PR. We were better than newspapers because we had full attribution. And we know we did these links and we got these rankings and it sent this many people for this keyword and they converted and boom. Then Google came along and said, not provided. Boom. That was step one.
Hmm.
Then you might have noticed Google Search Console, you'll have 400 clicks. It'll tell you your little table down there, they think you can't do math. That little table full of clicks for your queries, that ain't 400 clicks worth of information. If you're lucky, maybe 60%. Maybe. I have
Yeah.
one, ironically, a ranking blog post about how Google Search Console data isn't reliable. Guess how many of those 50 clicks I have query data for?
5.
Four. Four.
I wasn't far off.
Yeah. Yeah. Ironically, they've just proven my point
Yep.
that Google
Yep.
Search Console's not data is not reliable, especially when you're pointing out how not reliable it is.
Yeah.
But
I'll go on the pages report and be like, oh, okay, each one of these pages has 200, 300 clicks. Then I go drill down, take a look at a query report for that URL. And I'm like, where's all my clicks? Who moved my clicks?
who moved my cheese clicks? It's gone. It's in that case that's like 3% of the clicks. You would actually be better served of randomly choosing rather than using a 3% to determine any sort of directionality.
Yep.
So we've become untied from these ideas of attribution. So in a post attribution world, how do you make the argument that you deserve to be paid?
Mm, excellent question. So, you know, I honestly think it's a matter of telling the right story, right? I mean, and I'm not talking about being manipulative, but using data to your benefit to show how you might impact things or how you have impacted things. So when you're doing your monthly reports or your quarterly reporting, whatever, show with data as much attribution as possible. We know it's not going to be all the way there, but if you're able to, at the very least, show, well, we're getting, let's just say the homepage is getting, 15% more clicks. And we know that based on people who enter from organic search sources, that we're going to see, a particular amount of those people convert. If we notice that, okay, maybe we're doing, blog content, or maybe we're doing some technical fixes with, core web vitals, that has an impact at a page level, but also it can help the site as a whole, right? I mean, as you're actually looking at these URLs in your reports, I mean, of course, make sure you're paying attention to how things are performing at a URL by URL level, but also, you know, you might be getting better visibility for your branded searches. So maybe your homepage traffic is going to go up. You're getting shown more frequently. Google trusts your brand more because they know that you're, providing a quality website experience. And if you saw a lift of, 5%, 10% in conversions from the homepage, and you're seeing some sort of correlation there, I say take advantage of that opportunity to uh lay claim and say, hey, look, we're working on these things. SEO is a game of sums. We're seeing, a win here. And, with all things being equal, we understand that the value that we're adding adds to that game of sums. And we're seeing this excel. We're seeing, your conversion rate ticking up, and we're seeing, X amount of more revenue from homepage visitors than we did. So, it's, getting them to understand, when I say they, I mean the client. It's getting the client to understand that, SEO is not in a silo. And if you touch something over here might change. Your homepage ranks for, potentially thousands, tens of thousands of keywords. If we're talking about, more enterprise type client, that doesn't those keywords aren't on the homepage. You're not you don't need to have every single keyword you want to rank for on your homepage. That would, be a complete mess. Um, so, you have to be able to tell the right story and say, because we made this change here, we're seeing some growth over in this area, and it's reasonable because we're, trying to optimize for these keywords, but the homepage is getting credit for it, that the work that we're doing is adding value.
Adding value, I think, is the key defining requirement for the next stage of SEO, you know, and, whether that's re-evaluating how you think of link building, because I think it's an easier argument now to do link building than ever. Like, hey, I need to get more mentions of our brand, and if I can, I'll get some links out of it too, is way easier than a 5-minute diatribe about, okay, this is PageRank and this is how it works, and you get anchor text and it helps directionally. Like, they already are accepting. So many more of these conversations are a lot easier
Mm-hmm. Sure.
than in the past. When I think of Fran Fishkin, visionary,
Yep.
2012 was the first time I think he mentioned, unlinked citations
Mm-hmm.
being a
Mm-hmm.
factor. And now, we have, as you call it, a wild, wild west moment, but I think a re-entry of competition into the search space has really revitalized, and probably, bravo for the moment in time we're at, because some of these things that we were doing were just they worked, but they were not great, you know?
Right. And or they worked until they didn't.
Yes, and that's kind of the game of SEO too, of well, it works until it doesn't, and we'll chase this thing and narrow it down and get really close, and then they'll change the game and move it over here, and
Right.
you know, search results in that process. You know, it's weird because on the one hand, I accept blame for some of the less optimal things that I've optimized towards, but at the same time, Google also has taken on a campaign of enshittification. They have dialed up their pressure points to optimize their paid conversion elements. And HCU, who is it helpful for? Yeah, it's a helpful content update, but it's more helpful for Google to have uh, results that it can sell ads on
Mhm.
than, the 400 plumbers publishing how to fix a leaky pipe. They got
Yeah.
enough of the content of that type out of
Mhm.
the internet.
For
And
sure.
so that's my
And
take on it.
no, I think that's pretty spot on. And I think about, are we as SEOs kind of a cog in the machine that is helping Google turn and create, basically we're the ones that are feeding the beast, so the beast can give of itself to everyone who comes and sees it.
There is an aspect of that I wonder about how we're viewed in the ecosystem of Google. I'm sure that there are Googlers that would, if they could, you know, take steps to ban, SEOs. Um, but the reality is that we hear and listen and we find the things that need to be done and push businesses to do them. And there's a reason why we've seen so many famous FUD campaigns, faux outrage from Google. "Oh, uh, you can't guest post on other people's sites. It's messing up our rankings." Wait, what? I can't reach out to another different brand and show off my subject matter expertise somewhere else because you're saying that's manipulative? Well, so I should never talk to a journalist. I should never, seek visibility elsewhere. What? What? And then you look at it, and they chose like Anne Smarty was it the big one. They hit her,
Yeah,
almost nobody else, but hitting her was enough to put fear into everybody. Oh, watch out for that guest posting and pulling back, because they
yeah.
didn't actually have a technical fix to figure out or sort out, well, what are paid guest posts, or what are, how are they finding these guest posts, and what's spammy, and they're like, well, we're not going to figure that out. Instead, we'll just scare them.
Well, and then they threw the UGC link attribution on there, and what's the other for affiliate too. So like they're like, well, tell us, please give us a hint so we know, because I mean, because it kind of shows you that they don't know, right? Like,
Yeah. It's funny because they're like, no follows, just a hint. A
yeah.
hint that will negate the value 60% of the time. It works every time. But
Right.
but also, you need to do it because otherwise you're exploiting us and we can't tell what's trustworthy or not. By the way, if you're selling links, please apply this special designator so we can identify it. Why? Why would I help you not help me?
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, yeah. It's very funny. That's I don't know. Sometimes it feels like Google's like trying to like pull one over on us or be clever. I'm not sure what where their heads at, but it's fun. It's a love hate relationship, and as SEOs, we understand that more and more the older we get.
It is. It's definitely, Googlers, uh, John Mueller, massive respect for being able to say something so specifically true that it is false in all other occasions of or contexts. And part of it's our own, the naive SEOs, the newbie SEOs, just looking for crumbs that will credibly take anything and try to take anything that they say and smash it and apply it to literally anything else.
Yep.
So on the one hand, I'm like, yes, organic CTR from browsers. We don't use browser click data in our as a ranking factor. Well, we know now that that's absolutely fundamentally true, but also fundamentally false. They don't use it as a ranking factor. It's the whole freaking ranking system. It's 1/3 of the reason that you get traffic is the behavior signals that they've been mining, because they figured out, oh, hey, we've got 1/4 of the world one half of the world using Chrome now and not even thinking about it. And we can see everything they're doing, everything they're clicking on and bouncing back on. We have the data to say whether or not this site sucks. Gosh, gee, should we not use that for some unknown, unlegally specified reason? Yeah,
Yeah.
no, they were using it the whole time. They just said that they weren't using it in a way that, if you didn't understand the way that they use words, sounds like they were a denial. But very, very good at saying nothing so specifically eloquently.
It makes you wonder, are they using AI to come up with these crazy cockamamie answers?
I don't think I don't from maybe now, but at the time it comes from like a deep complex understanding of the specific nuances of things to be able to elide, that's a new vocabulary word,
Yeah.
elide so
Yeah.
eloquently. Um, you know, correctly saying something in a way, in a deceptive manner that can't really be called out because it's so eloquently done.
Yep. For sure. Well, at the
Um,
very least, I'm sure thinking they're probably running it past legal, because it's with the
that's
GDPR
true.
stuff, it's getting a little harder for them to skirt the details.
They have a whole lot of profit to push around to be able to say those things, but you're right that I think there is less and less space to maneuver. Um, I'm curious, what are some of the niches that you've been working on? Anything new or different, or something old coming back that's working again?
Yeah, well, the biggest thing right now, and you brought it up earlier, is the like unlinked mentions, getting the visibility on other third party publications and marketplace sites is more important than ever. Because I mean, if you're asking for who's the best plumber near me, well, Google's gonna first look at their GBP. What do the reviews look like there? And then we'll start looking at other sources. And it's going to look at Yelp. It's going to look at maybe like a home advisor, or other places where that plumber might have listings across the web, and they can get a reasonable understanding of what's this individual, is this individual trustworthy, and are they trustworthy enough compared to their competitors, uh, for us to promote them at the top, above those other individuals. So, you know, um, there's been this crazy debate, during the entire tenure of my career. Is like, okay, link building, is it valuable? Is it not? Can you get away with not doing it? Well, yeah, you could get away with not really investing too much in link building, but you know, at the end of the day, whoever has, the bigger footprint and the more people talking about them across the web in a positive way, that is the ultimate end all be all of winning and dominating the SERPs. So it's been important, but I think now it's more important than ever. And I think the bigger your audience is, the more important that is. So if you're a national e-commerce, B2C retailer, then you're gonna want to ensure that you're if you're selling furniture, you're up against Wayfair, you're up against these big behemoths in the industry. You're gonna want to make sure that you are standing out positively in some way, shape, or form, that someone will want to come and choose you over, $1 trillion enterprise.
Yeah. So is it that probably plays more into being like a cross pollinator and looking across your teams and their skill sets and looking to get as many wins, making sure that you're piggybacking on the PPC spend. You're creating the organic SEO assets and pages, resources, downloadables to go along with that email send blast you're sending out to 5,000 people, and thinking of all the ways to piggyback on, that PR campaign. Your
Yeah,
CEO's going out and doing some public speaking. Well, can you get the transcript?
yeah.
And once you get the transcript, how are you repackaging, repurposing? What are the different video sites that you can get that pushed out on with little links?
That's exactly it. Integrated marketing campaigns, repurposing your content in every way, shape, or form you can think of that's going to resonate with your audience. Um, I've been running SEO campaigns for car dealerships for the past several years. One thing that was really a needle mover for these dealerships is capitalizing on um, you know sales events. Like, for example, say like Black Friday, or even
Mm.
just, Memorial Day, or, 4th of July. You stand up a landing page that's specific to that particular sales event. You make sure that, that page, is positioned the best way it can to rank well. You have include it in your email marketing campaigns to everyone who is interested in those vehicles that are included within the sale. And then, send paid search, paid social traffic to these pages, include some organic social content talking about it as well. And so you're hitting your audience from all angles that they might be interacting with you on. And that's really how you win. It's not one single pronged approach. You can't just do SEO. You can't just do PPC. You can't just do email marketing. They need to be working harmoniously as much as possible, so that game of sums of all these channels hold each other up and are integrated into each other to make it a holistic marketing campaign rather than just a paid search or SEO campaign.
Two questions from my friend Michael McDougald, writing agency. He's curious if you've run into going too far. We have a number of different options for building links. There's PressWiz from Charles Float. There's reciprocal link exchange platforms. I think it's Karma Link. There's helping SEO out. Several different platforms out there. What are there any guardrails left outside of like Fiverr? I think anytime buying Fiverr links is still a bad idea. Although I have to put in a caveat of I saw it work. Like I did a consult with a guy and he had a product selling banana hammocks for men.
Okay.
And like he had a banana hammock page and he bought 400 comment spam links and uh the darn thing had nothing else, had never been optimized in any other way, shape, or form, but it ranked better because it had anchor text links related to banana hammocks for men. So I use that as a cautionary tale of like, okay, so we can see that that works, but I can't guarantee how long that is going to work that way.
Uh-huh.
Let's get some good links and use that same concept, but so I have the unfortunate experience of seeing what was a totally spammy tactic that definitely worked and you didn't think it should. That's one of them. But it's also, I know that there are things that are triggering penalties. There are things that are, in the system that'll get you flagged and booted.
Mhm.
Where are those red lines that you've run into or you've observed in a consultancy of like, hey, somebody ran into this flagpole?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this. Whenever I approach link building, it's always done with extreme caution because you don't, for one, you don't want the reputation of your site to be a poor one. And two, you don't want to get penalized if you go crazy and you're getting links from every place you can. So, with that being said, I'm very choosy with how I acquire links. So like I've knock on wood, never have had a challenge where I'm like trying to recover from like a penalty. But I will say like one thing that I've seen work quite a bit in links is getting links from like legitimate partners that you work with. Like I was working for an e-commerce maintenance repair operations yeah, parts provider. So they worked with a lot of hotels, worked with apartment complexes, that sort of thing. And so, we carried, hundreds of brands and those brands have, store locators and, um, or, at least we didn't have physical stores since we were e-commerce, but, we could be included in, oh, hey, here's a site that carries our product because we're not an e-commerce site. We are not selling to the public. Um, so we would get links from these partners, our suppliers, uh, and it worked tremendously well, and it was very easy. Typically, good link building is not very easy. It's tedious. It requires a lot of outreach, but I thought that was something that was kind of a an easy win. That I was like, oh shoot, these are it's like shooting fish in a barrel, but we're still getting, great results and improving our authority. And it's, we're not doing anything bad. We're not paying for these links. We're not twisting their arm. We're just saying, hey, we have something that's going to be important to your business. You might want to use us so we can, kind of help each other grow.
It's always uh, astonishing to me how little businesses think about their site, but then turn around and want so much out of their site. Like it's supposed to do everything, but you give it nearly nothing. Or maybe it's because it seems like it's so difficult to get stuff onto it that it's like, oh, I put my name on it. Isn't that enough? I have a website. Isn't that enough? Like, no, like, and it's not just like your own site. It's like, did you get your site listed on your partners? Yes or no? Like,
Hmm.
oh, you did,
Yeah.
like, you donated $50 million to charity. Did you at least get a followed link out of it from somewhere? No?
Or
Okay,
did,
can
or
we?
did you even get a press release out about it?
Yeah, did you get a press? Oh, yeah. Like, there's been so many things where I've seen of like, you didn't get any juice. You didn't squeeze you didn't squeeze for that juice.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? It's funny. I mean, I've probably experienced this in any medium to large organization that I've worked for or with. Is like I'll come across something like some sort of mention or like a press release of something cool that the brand or organization I'm working for did, and I never heard about it. And I think that's the biggest issue that I have is the disconnected communication with the SEO department. And I think they don't realize, whether it's the Marcom team or if it's a social media manager, whoever's doing it, they don't realize what kind of impact they can have outside of just their position alone in getting that, press release or whatever it is, published and out the door.
you've been in the business for quite a while. I'm guessing that you've been in-house, freelance, consultant. So this comes from Patrick Stocks, and I'm going to give you a chance to pass on a head scratcher or a question for the next SEO guest, something you're having a challenge. But he's wondering if you're going independent as an SEO consultant, what goes into the contract? How do you price the retainer? And how do you filter out the tire kickers who just want a free SEO audit?
Mm, I love that. So yeah, so I mean, and I've done a ton of contract work, a ton of freelance stuff. So the way that I typically put mine together, I mean, everybody's going to be a little bit different in how you put a contract together, but you know, at uh, at at least you have to make sure that you are setting the right expectations, so you don't get scope creep, so you don't work yourself into a hole. Um, that's my biggest piece of advice is, make sure that when you craft your proposal and, you're giving your roadmap of 6 months or 12 months, whatever it is, you're including deliverables that you can reasonably fulfill on, and that you can, make sure that, you're gonna do, great quality work for. And if you need help, maybe you cut into your margins a little bit, bring, somebody in that can help you fulfill on that. Because at the end of the day, you're going to make more with that client or that organization with, making sure that things are done on time and done at a, you know, high quality, acceptance criteria than if are late and the work is half-assed and, you're not, you're not doing your best. So, with that being said, I also be choosy on who you take work from. If you're not gonna feel passionate about that work, or you don't have the bandwidth, maybe you're maxed out, you already have enough clients, make sure you're not, hamstringing yourself in a way that is gonna put you and the client both in a bad position. Because that's a terrible thing. I mean, I'll be perfectly honest with everyone watching this, and you, Jeremy, like, that's happened to me before in my career earlier on, and it's a terrible feeling, and you don't want to let uh your partners down, or you don't want to let your client down, and you want to, be a person of integrity and making sure that you are, fulfilling on what you say you will and within a reasonable time frame. So, above all, that's how you should put your contracts together. And then as far as, sorry, there was a second part of that question, wasn't there, Jeremy? That was,
Yeah, what goes into the contract? How do you price the retainer, and how do you filter out tire kickers when you're trying to, land new clients? And also, if you want to speak to that, of like, what's the game right now of actually getting work as a freelance SEO consultant?
yeah, for sure. So as far as pricing goes, don't sell yourself short. Make sure that you are, whether it's hourly or whether you're doing a monthly, retainer price point, um, make sure that it makes sense for you, like, for, your tenure in the industry. If you're brand new, you're trying to, get your feet wet, you probably want to charge a little less. If you've been in the industry 10, 15 plus years, you can charge a little bit more. Um, Make sure it makes sense for you, but also make sure it makes sense for the client too. You don't want to clients don't want to feel like they're getting ripped off, and you don't want to feel like you're ripping yourself off. So, take a look around. I mean, we have an awesome, you know, AI, landscape for us to rely on, as far as trying to figure out, okay, what, for my tenure and my background, like, what's a reasonable market rate to charge?
Yeah.
That's a good way to go about it. And, look at, do your homework. Don't just trust the first AI answer, but, that's a great way to kind of start, getting an idea of where you should be. Um, and as far as, making sure the tire kickers are, not stealing your time, you know, I typically will charge, a small fee for, putting together an audit or, a cursory overview of their site, even if it's just like, a 15-minute Loom video going over their website and showing opportunities there. Maybe it's not a ton. Maybe you're charging, hey, I'll do this Loom video for $50. I'll give you a few, full overview a cursory overview of, what can be done in this 15-minute video, but it could be, really, helpful to your business. And I could be the one that helps you champion these, items and improve your site. Or if you want, you could take that and, do whatever you want. But, it shows that your time is valuable. And it also shows that, you're both working in good faith, right? Like, okay, we know this guy's going to do, what he says he's going to do. So make sure whatever you're charging for, whether it's an audit or the, Loom video, whatever, make sure that you get it done in time, and make sure it's is inclusive of everything that you stated it was up front. So, it's a great way to earn that trust and to, um, establish a working relationship quickly, and show that you are capable of what you say you are, and that you can actually fulfill too.
And don't forget that having a higher price point in and of itself can be a justification for having a higher price point. The perception of the quality of the work of what they are expecting to get out, if you race yourself to the bottom of the barrel, you can 100% screw yourself out of a magnificent payday. Forget the imposter syndrome. Put it out there, and you know what? If you charged 300% more than you were going to, but you got 3 less contracts, well, you're still doing the same amount of work, but you're
Hmm.
getting paid, 3 times as much.
Yeah.
You lost those 2 opportunities, but it's better at the end of the day. But
Yep.
at the same time, that's in balance of don't price yourself out of a market. But I think with the cognitive load, cognitive expertise aspect, um, you know, that's what you got to play your strength to of, hey, I'm here in this role to be the inspector detector, to figure out what buttons not to push, and to play that role for your team. you know I'm bringing a particular set of skills. So you don't want to come to the table and be like, yes, I am the fabulous art thief, it'll be $5 to steal the Mona Lisa. Like, wait,
Yeah.
what? If you could steal the Mona Lisa, then why is it $5?
This
I
guy's
undervalue
hard up for
myself
cash.
personally. I undervalue myself. So they'll either think you're an idiot for not pricing yourself appropriately, or you're spammy or scammy and not trustworthy. So I'd rather charge more and work harder to meet that higher level price point expectation, which, you know, does come with its own headaches, folks. You work with an enterprise level entity, be prepared for red tape. I've taken a drug test to edit a website. Um, you know, I've had to sit through 4 meetings with at least 10 people to change one H1 tag on a major healthcare website. I won't say which one, HCA. Um, but you have, things that are very important to Hippo's highest paid person in the office. And sometimes that takes a couple extra meetings, but they're generally a little bit more reliable on paying their invoices than the little guys, unless you have to go through a finance team, which wants net 60 terms. If there's anything you can put in your contract, it's, I want to be paid upfront for the next month's work. Um, Always try to get that. If you have to take 30-day net terms, just
Hmm.
try to get it 30-day net terms from your invoice at the beginning of the month, instead of 30-day net terms for your invoice at the end of the month, which means you go 2 months without being paid. Just be aware
Yep.
that happens. It can happen with larger outfits. So it's a push and pull. Give a shout out to where people can find the Rob Bonham. What social media are you on? People want to get a taste for what you do if you're available at all for consulting or conversation.
Absolutely. I'm always happy to talk. Definitely have some capacity to take on another client or two right now. So reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm a LinkedIn head, so always on there. It's on my phone, so I'm tied at the hip with LinkedIn. So find me on there, Rob Bonham. I think I'm the only Rob Bonham doing SEO. There's some other Rob Bonhams, but I'm the only SEO out there.
Fantastic. I'd like to invite you back. I'm going to put together a roundtable to talk about the industry state of SEO, winning contracts, what to put into your guidelines, what clients to fire, if you'd be interested.
Absolutely, I'd love that.
Fantastic. I'll make sure that your LinkedIn profile gets linked in the show notes. Thanks for coming and visiting.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jeremy.